This week on Africa Weekly, we head to Kenya, one of the world's leading producers of black tea. But this prized export is not fetching the prices it once did, forcing suppliers to innovate with new products and strategies. And then we head to Senegal, where a forest of the country's iconic baobab trees is being put at risk by limestone quarrying, as the country forges ahead with the president's emerging Senegal plan. But first, let's take a look at the stories from the continent that made the headlines this week. Leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad and Mauritania, collectively known as the G5 nations, met for a military summit with Emmanuel Macron in the southern French city of Pau. These 5 countries in Africa's Sahel region are trying to boost their efforts to fight back against an upsurge in jihadist attacks.
Already, strengthened by our meeting with our Sahelian counterparts, I have decided to commit additional military assets. 220 soldiers to boost this effort will be added to the troops already present in the Barkhane operation.
The summit comes just as France's military presence in the region is starting to face serious opposition from many citizens, who find fault with the increasingly prominent role played by a former colonial power.
We are asking legitimate questions. What is the point of this impressive military hardware if terrorists just carry on bullying us in our territory? So what we want is accountability, a justification for the stationing of French troops in the Sahel. They are the ones who are at issue, and that is why we are only talking about them.
A new toll released by authorities in Niger gave the final death count from a jihadist attack on a military camp last week as 89, the biggest single loss in the country's history. Meanwhile, the United States has announced its intention to scale back its military presence in Africa, saying it wants to focus more on responding to threats posed by Russia and China. It's news that will come as an additional blow to France, already deploring the lack of significant contributions from fellow EU countries. Thousands of Malawians joined a protest over alleged attempts to bribe judges overseeing a legal challenge to the re-election last year of President Peter Mutharika. People took to the streets after the country's Chief Justice charged that the 5 judges presiding over the case had been offered bribes.
I am going to march the entire route because I want justice to be seen. We cast our vote on the 21st of May, but it is evident that the votes were stolen, so we are fighting for justice.
Sporadic demonstrations have broken out across Malawi since the election, with protesters demanding the resignation of the head of the country's electoral commission over her handling of the vote, which saw Mutharika retain power by a small margin. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has responded to US President Donald Trump's claim that he deserved to win the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Ahmed.
So the issue of President Trump must go to the Nobel Prize Committee. I'm not aware how they elect or select someone to provide the prize. And I'm not working for the prize. I'm working that peace is a very critical thing for our region. And if they recognize, and if President Trump complained, it must go to Oslo, not to Ethiopia. Thank you very much.
Ahmed won the prize last year for his efforts in securing a truce with Eritrea and his decision to release thousands of political prisoners, as well as the prominent role he has played in mediating the political crises in Sudan and South Sudan. Thousands of supporters of Gambia's former dictator Yahya Jammeh demonstrated on the outskirts of the capital Banjul, demanding his return from exile. The protest comes days after the former leader was heard in a leaked audio recording insisting that the tiny West African state guarantee his right to return. Jammeh ruled Gambia with an iron fist for 22 years, but fled in January 2017 after losing a presidential election to relatively unknown Adama Barrow. Barrow's cabinet has said that Jammeh can return as a citizen, but cannot run for president again. These women have hand-picked tea in Kenya's highlands for years. The process of curing and shredding the leaves has remained the same for decades. But Kenya's prized black tea is not fetching the prices it once did, forcing the top supplier of the world's most popular drink to try something new. Factory workers are experimenting with a range of boutique teas, deviating from decades of tradition in the quest for new customers and a buffer against unstable prices.
Predominantly we produce what they call Kate and Kal, CTCT. That's what Kenya has produced predominantly. And we are now trying to diversify to orthodox teas, the type that Sri Lanka produces. Now that orthodox tea will enable us to enter new markets such as Russia and those other states around Russia.
Workers in Unyeri are being retrained in the production of orthodox tea, a slower, more delicate process that preserves the leaf for a more flavourful result. This range is still being perfected at Gitugi factory, with the aim of selling it in new markets where whole leaf tea is savoured.
A country like Russia, they look at the blackness of the leaf, but they also want the experience of a good cup of tea. But the key critical item is how the leaf looks like. They prefer bolder whole leaf.
The shift towards orthodox teas has been costly, with the change in working culture also proving to be a challenge for farmers and labourers. But with prices for Kenya's traditional, finely cut tea falling, the risk was necessary to take.
Tea is a commodity, and as you know, with commodities, prices are very erratic and are ever changing. Unlike costs are forever going up. So to safeguard the smallholder, for KTDA to safeguard the smallholder farmer, one of the things that the board decided was to diversify to other products, starting with black orthodox.
The Kenyan tea industry hopes that the shift will bear fruit in the long run, with custom varieties and infusions of orthodox teas often being sold at higher prices. But orthodox and specialty ranges still represent only a tiny fraction of Kenya's tea exports. Critics say that the Kenya Tea Development Agency has been slow to adapt. The decision to branch out into new products was taken in 2000, but by the end of 2019, just 11 of its 69 factories are expected to be producing orthodox tea.
This area used to be full of baobabs, an iconic tree in Senegal that represents life and death and whose leaves are used in medicinal teas. But today, the landscape here is lunar. These craters are the result of limestone mining in Bandia, an hour's drive from Dakar. For nearly 20 years, the Senegalese company Ciment du Sahel has based its cement plant here. The plant is supplied with limestone from some 20 open pit mines in the surrounding area.
As soon as they reach a part where there is no more limestone, they give up and leave it as it is. But in the contract it was clearly specified that after exploitation it is necessary to backfill, to restore and to put in new plant species, which would allow the baobabs to reclaim these areas.
With only 1/5 of the original forest area left, the cement plant has obtained a license to operate an additional 236 hectares. The decision is causing anger and concern among local residents. The explosives used would shake the surrounding houses, resulting in noxious limestone dust entering the atmosphere.
Since the mining began, there has been an increase in respiratory diseases. These include tuberculosis, asthma, respiratory infections such as pneumonia. It really affected the boys from the villages. That is a statement we made on the reports we sent. We've seen that there is an increase in these pathologies.
In Senegal, the construction sector is growing rapidly, driven by the government's policy of pursuing industrialization in this poor nation. One consequence is that it is now considered necessary to declassify once protected forest land.
When we make a decision to downgrade, we take the necessary measures to ensure that everything we lose in terms of forest is compensated for in another part of the territory. The state of Senegal has committed itself, through the Emerging Senegal Plan, to make Senegal green. I believe that is the intention of the head of state, the President of the Republic.
The authorities have assured that the authorization given to the cement plant is not final, and the licensing to operate across more land is pending. But with the current pace of cement production, the future of the region's baobab trees could be at risk.
The 2021 edition of the Africa Cup of Nations will be held in Cameroon from the 9th of January to the 6th of February 2021.
The organising committee of Africa's continent-wide football tournament has taken the decision to return to the winter time slot for the 2021 tournament in Cameroon. The Central African country was initially scheduled to be the venue for the 2019 Cup of Nations, but it was stripped of its hosting rights in late 2018 because of delays in its preparations. That's all from this edition of Africa Weekly. Until next week.